Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I told you guys we would not review this guitar, but it's kind of sat around for 8 months, so I thought, hey, why don't I share it? Because I actually found there's a factory error on this thing, so we must document it. Now, it's not anything too cool. Don't get your hopes up too much as far as the error goes. But today, we are talking about the Peter Frampton Phenix Les Paul Custom. Okay, so it's a beautiful 3-pickup black Les Paul Custom. It's got some Peter Frampton elements to it. Let's learn all about this thing. This was first introduced in 2021, this new lineup, and essentially that is what it is. It is a forever collection of a Peter Frampton model that you should be able to buy for quite some time. They're pretty expensive though, $7,000, but they're a pretty high-end custom shop guitar. And this particular version is built as more of a tribute to Peter Frampton's original 54 Les Paul Custom. Now, you heard me correctly, his was originally a 54. Now, if you don't know the story behind his, in 1980, he was on tour in South America, and a cargo plane filled with all of the band's gear was loaded up in Venezuela and had a trip planned down to Panama for their next gig. Unfortunately, as the plane was taking off or shortly thereafter, there was a catastrophic crash where they lost all the gear, all the people on board, and Peter was just distraught. His gear was gone, people had died. It was not such a good situation. So he just always thought, oh man, my Les Paul Custom, it's gone all these years. But then, in 2011, he gets a phone call where a collector in Curacao just happened to see this thing being worked on by a guitar tech. So when he saw that, he saw all the marks on it, he thought, is that what I think it is? So we got a hold of Peter. Now, I think there's a nice video where Peter talks about the whole thing, where people have, contacted him multiple times thinking, hey, is this your guitar? Is this your guitar? But this is the one that actually ended up being true. So long story short, he eventually got reunited with what he now calls Phenix, without the O. Phenix, because it rose from the flames, just like the mythical bird. So, Gibson has done so many reissues of this guitar, I honestly can't tell you all of them. I know there was a run in 2000, one in 2005, but the Big Mac Daddy was the celebration when he got it back and they could actually scan the guitar and whatnot. That was done up in 2015 and aged and signed by Tom Murphy. They only made 35 of them. They matched the burnt headstock look with the missing binding. That's the one I actually wanted to review, so this is kind of like a placeholder until I happen to own one of those 2015 ones. But hey, did you know Peter Frampton also has a signature Les Paul Jr.? Done circa 2005. It's a Les Paul Jr. with 3 dog-ear P90 pickups. Funny thing about those things though, there seems to be more pilot run and prototype versions out there than there are actual production runs. Almost every single one I've ever seen show up was always some sort of a prototype. So one day I'll document one of those things too, but now let's focus on this thing. Can you guys spot the factory error here? Yeah, it's a poker chip. It's supposed to be cream, and they put black. Now I thought, okay, is it in the case or something? Because I had somebody interested in purchasing this, but they're like, hey, where's the cream poker chip? Now in here, stock from the factory, you do get your choice of a brass switch tip, which looks pretty cool. Or you can put the provided cream one on there. They also give you Schaller strap locks because that's what these things ship with. But I did not see a spare poker chip, so I don't think that was supposed to be like that. And I didn't change it. I got a brand new direct from Gibson, but here you can see Mr. Peter here all happy with how it's supposed to look. So these things are $7,000 brand new, and that's kind of expensive. But you have to remember, you can't base this off of the $5,000 base Les Paul Custom. In theory, I mean, I still need to tear this thing apart to make sure we have all the other specs. But what makes this different from all the other ones is the fact that it has a mahogany top, because that's how 54s originally were. I mean, 54s also originally had a Alnico 5 pickup and a P90 in the bridge, the staple in the P90, but his was routed out and modified. And if I remember correctly, it was done that way before he had got it. But I'm going to wait to report on that full story until I get a 2015 one. But if you are interested in one of these, I would honestly suggest buying a used one because there's so many of them on the market. You can definitely get yourself a deal on one of these instead of paying $7,000. And if you're worried about a few little scratches or something, I mean, this is how it shipped from the factory. This is the VOS job. So it's going to have all those smudges and whatnot built into it anyways. So you might as well just get one that was slightly used unless you have to have something that is 100% brand new, only yours. But to learn more about this particular variation, let's go ahead and throw it on the workbench to take a look at its individual parts and specs. Inside the Phenix, let's go ahead and take a look. So, pickup wise, we have 3 custom buckers in here. We've got one that looks like this, a middle one like that, and a bridge pickup like so. So let's check out our cavities. Here's what the bridge pickup looks like. Pretty standard. The middle one's kind of strange though. You've got an access to the wire channel route just kind of drilled straight through there. And then you've got the bare mahogany exposed. I was kind of expecting that to all be pure black. If I didn't know better, I'd almost question if that was added after the factory. But again, I bought this thing brand new. But then I was really curious about this. I was hoping we would have a long neck tenon, and we do. Most modern day custom shops will, but that wasn't always true. But you can see the maple block that caps off the truss rod in the neck right there. Other than that, this is an all mahogany. It was kind of funny during my all maple Les Paul review that you can check out over here. Somebody was like, hey, what about all mahogany? A 54 or a 57 reissue is your closest bet to that. I mean, you've got mahogany on the top, even the body, you've got it on the neck. You might have a Hollywood veneer, and you'll have the ebony fretboard, but that's pretty much the closest you'll get to one of those. And there's been limited run standards and classics done very similar to this, so if you want a hog guitar, they are out there. But anyways, all the pickups are uncovered. Stock from the factory, they are like this with the pull pieces in the downward position, like you have 2 bridge pickups and then a single neck. Now, you can flip that around. You'll just have to change the way the pickup ring has been installed. Generally speaking, this is more traditionally acceptable, this layout, but I've seen people do it the 2-neck version way too.
Now, if you're anything like me, you're looking at this bridge and going, why on earth does this 54 reissue have a Nashville bridge? I mean, the reason you pay these crazy money mounts is because you get the ABR1 bridge. Well, if you actually look at his original, at one point in time, somebody converted his ABR1 into the Nashville style. So whenever they reissue these things, they give it the Nashville bridge, even though it's kind of seen as a lesser spec in a traditionalist eyes, but it is correct for Phenix.
But true to historic specs, we have a very nice lightweight aluminum tailpiece. I mean, this is ridiculously light. And it looks like stock from the factory, you get a little bit of an aging job to it. We've got 4 knobs here, 2 are volumes and 2 are tones, but we'll talk about that when we demo it, because it's a little bit more complicated than usual. So we already talked about our 2 different switch tips and my factory error black poker chip. It's easy enough to replace one of those. I'm sure if I called Gibson up and said, hey, I was supposed to get a cream one, they would gladly send it. But you can see the VOS finish here. You can polish that off. But then if I were to polish it off, I have to advertise the guitar as I remove the VOS, and that's going to upset somebody. But what is kind of cool about this guitar is it does not come from the factory drilled for a pick guard. Technically, that'd be incorrect on his guitar, but I think that's one of those, if you're OCD about having exposed screw hole type things and you want a pickguardless Les Paul, that could be kind of cool. I'm really curious if the 2015 run would actually be routed deeper for the Alnico 5 pickup and have the holes in the body. I can't wait to document one of those one day. But this one, obviously, not trying to be a exact reissue, just more of a tribute, inspired by, as they say. But another spec that just has me scratching my head here is, 9-hole weight relief. Why? It definitely did not have weight relief because that didn't exist until 1982-ish. But it's got a nice belly to it. It's historic spec right there. Mahogany neck, ebony fretboard. But our next one is a reason why you would buy this over like any other 57 reissue or a different brand new Les Paul custom. This actually comes stock with jumbo frets. So if I remember correctly, his original was refretted for obvious reasons. So they decided to mimic those larger frets. So I think most Gibsons come with like medium jumbos, so these are going to be a larger fret wire. So regardless of how you feel about anything else on this guitar, that technically does make it different. If you have to have jumbo frets, you can't take medium jumbos, that could be a selling point for somebody beside it being Peter Frampton. But speaking of him, there, at the 12th fret, there's a sandblasted signature of his, which I think is a nice touch on a tribute model like this. Because let's face it, you can take just almost about any black Les Paul custom and make it look like this with a little bit of a routing in the center and moving pickups around. It might not be 100% correct underneath the paint because most customs nowadays are maple tops, but you can get your Peter on for less like that.
So that's a nice little touch right there. But beautiful mother of pearl inlays on this one. I really like that third one. That's great. I guess one more comment about the frets. I mean, if this had the original frets, that'd be a fretless wonder. Those are low and skinny frets. They're almost non-existent, so I mean, that's a good thing that we've got jumbos on here. You get a bone nut that measures 1.67 inches, and the 12th fret 2.05. First fret neck depth is rockin' 0.88, and it kind of chunks up to 1.05. Wow. Here's that neck profile at the 1st and the 12th fret, just nice and rounded. Widens up a bit, but I would still say it's more on the slightly skinnier side. Now the headstock was done very well in my opinion. Sure, you got the VOS stuff, regardless of how you feel about that, but it's nicely yellowed. So now you have golden logos instead of mother of pearl looking colored, but it still reflects nicely in the light. And then you get a historic style truss rod cover that also has Mr. Frampton's name on it. Moving on to the backside, not too much to look at. You just got the VOS finish with all the polishing swirls and scratches, your Gibson custom shop medallion, made in USA, all that good stuff. The wiring is actually pretty clean in here, considering how much they actually had to stuff in here. I mean, 3 pickups, you have to do a little bit more than normal. And of course you got your Bumblebee capacitors. Golden side output jack on this one, Schaller strap blocks, stock from the factory. You'll notice some other reissue specs like the thin binding and the cutaway. If you get it in the light just right, you can see where the mahogany top was actually joined. Continuing on down here, you can actually see like a little bit of an orange peeling effect going on right there. Or maybe that's just the mahogany wood grain where it kind of sank into it. Look around this edge just for fun. Yeah, you can see a little bit more of that on this edge too, so that must be the mahogany wood grain. So maybe that didn't get filled in good enough, or maybe they decided just to leave it like that. Moving up the backside of the neck, nothing too much to go over here. You just got your VOS finish with a Gibson custom decal. And then up here we have our serial number. Now what's kind of cool here is the serial number is actually a yellow color. And the reason for that is it's probably stamped white, but then the yellow clear coat gets sprayed over top of it and that turns it yellow. But these are coming stock with Grover tuners, so you don't have any exposed holes or anything like that, like his original one would. It's pretty lightweight for a Les Paul Custom, being solid mahogany. Just a little under 9 pounds, 8 pounds, 13.8 ounces. So let's go ahead and plug this in and grab some tone samples. Alright, let's go ahead and talk the tones of this thing. It's a little bit confusing to wrap your head around. So this guy right here acts as a master volume for both your neck and your bridge pickup. And then this one acts as kind of your blend control for your middle pickup. So if you roll this off, it will act just like a regular Les Paul Custom that has been wired to like a master volume and master tone. Don't worry about these knobs right now. So right now, this is just regular Les Paul Custom stuff. Cool, then obviously you can play around with your tone controls as well. But then where things really get fun is when you try to blend that middle pickup in here. So now we'll blend it full on 10. So you have the bridge and the middle together. Versus just the bridge. That's why I really like 3 pickup Les Paul Customs. It almost gives it a Stratty-like tone. So now we'll do the same thing with our neck pickup. So most 3 pickup Les Paul Customs, you can't actually blend those together. Because normally they're wired like this. Neck position, your normal middle position of your bridge and neck, and then just the bridge position is generally these two in like the add a phase tone. So that's something else why you might consider wanting to get one of these, is because of the way it's wired from the factory. I mean, you can pay anybody to rewire a guitar. It's not necessarily that special, but if you have to have factory original, that's one thing. But now let's try the middle position, which is every single pickup on. We'll start with just these two though. You don't have to go full on, you can just kind of lightly blend it in. Here it is at 5. Then you're probably curious, can you get just the middle pickup? Traditionally, no, but kind of, I guess. Like, it sounds different in every position here, but here it is with these two turned to 0 and then just your middle pickup. In the neck position, though. So I hope that gives you some of the ideas that you can get with the clean tones. So once again, these two, volume control. This one for the middle. These are the tones for the respective ones. I'm not going to mess too much with that. Let's go ahead and kick on some dirt and see how that sounds. Oh, I need some help on this. The song is familiar, but I can't think of the name. So if anybody wants to put that in the comments section. I know it's not a Frampton song, I'm sorry. But it's just what this guitar inspired me to play. Now that we know all about the new inspired by Peter Frampton Les Paul Custom, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Is it an exact replica? No. But that's alright. That's alright by me. It is an interesting Les Paul Custom though, so you have to think, if you're in the market for a brand new custom, do you want one that's wired like this directly from the factory? I think that is the only reason why you might want to purchase one of these over a different Les Paul, unless you're just a big Peter Frampton fan. I mean, you can do this whole modification to pretty much any Les Paul custom out there, as we were talking about earlier, but the wiring is very unique, and you wouldn't get that with just a regular 57 reissue. So I think those are the best attributes of this. If you're a Peter Frampton fan and you need a brand new guitar, this is for you. Otherwise, I would really suggest just picking one of these things up on the used market because they're just such a much better value there, and this new version isn't necessarily any better than the old ones, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But that doesn't mean it's not a good guitar. It's a great guitar. It's just $7,000 will buy you a whole lot of Les Pauls, so you kind of got to be picky with what you get. So, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed checking out this Peter Frampton Les Paul Custom with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. If you're interested in being the next owner of one of my demo guitars, you can check them out on my website, troglysguitarshow.com.